Hey, hello everybody. Once again, this is Greg West with Black Community Blackboard channel here on YouTube and our other social media platforms. As we said we were going to do, as we relaunched this page, where we were going to have weekly conversations with Joe Cooley Love, but due to some technical difficulties last week, which was turning out to be a very informational interview, and I think I might leak that recording one day, even though it might be all botched up and everything like that. It was a good information. We were back with our weekly conversations with her. And as always, like I like my disclaimer for this channel, if you know any positive people in our Black community that are doing things that need to be recognized, please get them in touch with us so that we can highlight them and talk about the good that they're doing, so we can change the narrative of where the regular media has nothing but negative things to say about our community and the people that are in there. So with that being said, you will be able to find our information in the description of how you can email us to get us in touch with any of those shop owners, teachers, anybody who's doing something positive in the Black community, as well as finding information if you would like to reach out to our weekly guest, Joe Cooley Love. As most of you know, she is running for city commission, and tonight we're going to talk about some of her adventures on the path of doing so. With that being said, I'll let Joe go ahead and introduce herself to the people who don't know her.
All right, I appreciate you, Greg. As you stated, my name is Joe Love. I am running for city commissioner. I have been back in Dayton after growing up here. I've been back for the past 3 years. I left for about 7, and coming back, seeing the stark difference, not that it wasn't already happening when I left, but seeing how drastically it changed in that time that I was gone, coming back and seeing all the resources gone, coming back and seeing a lot of my schools closed, hospitals closed, services no longer being offered, or programs that used to serve the people no longer being funded. After seeing all this, I just realized, I didn't want to just complain about it. I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to be the spark for change as much as I could by putting myself in a position where I can be a voice for those who go voiceless all the time. So that's really what I aim to do, is just be the spokesman for the people, because we need to definitely show the love back here in Dayton.
Thank you. And before we
Yeah.
get into this interview, as I believe is important for the people who might be for the first time seeing you or hearing you, and also for the ones who are returning, please spell out your 3 top concerns that you have, and why you want to get involved with this race.
Absolutely. So a few of them, I mean, they're very blatant issues that we've seen here in Dayton. I'm sure not just myself, but other individuals have observed this. Housing is a major issue for a lot of people here in Dayton. We have a higher rate of vacancy here in Dayton than they do in Kettering, but we have less houses. We don't have affordable housing programs. We have systems that aren't educating people on how to get and maintain housing. And we don't, like I said, have services currently that allow people to go in and purchase and become homeowners. A lot of the things that we have currently are for renters, and not to actually see people be able to own their home. The second thing that I am adamant about is healthcare, both physical and mental health care. Like I said, coming back, especially on the west and east side of Dayton, you see a lack of hospitals. You see plenty of urgent cares, but you don't see the emergency services. You don't see maternity wards. You don't see mental health facilities. You don't see, like, there's too many lists of things that you don't see that we need to absolutely see in order to better accommodate for the community that we have. And then the last one is education. Education is definitely important. I know as a city commissioner, we don't have as great a hand in education, but with a lot of the students that I see downtown, after a certain period, we have like 3,000 18 or younger children going downtown, the city can accommodate for after school programs. They can definitely offer and collaborate with the resources that we have out here so that it's not just a shuttle and drop, but it's a shuttle, it's an engage, it's a help thrive, it's a help learn, it's a help teach, so that they are using their time after school productively and continuing the education to make them a well-rounded, you know, individual.
That's good, Joe. That's good because, you know, as we know that, you know, as the song said, the children are our future. But if we don't have the resources to, you know, give them the things that they need, they lose hope. And we already know when there's a community with no hope, you know, it's a terrible thing. Let's talk about let's turn the page a little bit and let's talk about some of the things that, you know, while you were out knocking on doors and also meeting with people in the community to get your petition signed. Which, by the way, congratulations on gathering over 900 signatures of ballots to try to get you on the ballot. So
Thank
congratulations
you.
on that
I
part.
appreciate it. It was definitely a team effort. There was a lot of work. You know, we went to different areas. We knocked. We stationed ourselves at high access, high interval locations so that we can engage, both for the petition itself, but also just with the people and to see how they were feeling, you know, on in the different areas around Dayton. So it was a definitely an interesting experience.
And in that experience of interacting with the people in the community and everything, what did you take away from it? What were some of the concerns that you heard from who are the people that will hopefully be your future constituents?
Absolutely. Overarching, I heard a lot of discontent, a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of feelings of being disenfranchised by their government. And it's not that the information or that people don't know that it's happening. It's unfortunately that they've gotten so much to the point of feeling like nothing's going to change that they no longer engage. And so they become apathetic to even believing that they have a voice and a vote to make a difference. The other issues were, of course, some of the ones I stated: housing, especially seeing as many houses that we have that are dilapidated, that are needing of repair, or just need to be torn down. Again, I don't believe demolition is the answer for every single house, but there's definitely we need to identify, have housing inspectors actually go and say, this house is fit, this house is not. So that we can start to decide which one is getting a renovation, which one is getting torn down, so we can remove that blight that can't be fixed, but still with the plan of what can we put in its place. A lot of people were interested in the fact that we are a food Sahara, I would say. They call it food desert, but I say it's Sahara because it is dry pretty much everywhere here in Dayton, except for, well, I would say the South, but even the South doesn't have a grocery store in it. So we are pretty much dry here in Dayton. So the lack of access to nutritional foods, the lack of access to education around nutritional foods, even the lack of accessibility for people who have differing mental capabilities. That was something that was brought to my attention as well. For some people, even trying to vote is a hassle. Trying to vote seems like an impossible task because they haven't been given the skills or haven't been thought that they can develop the skills to get to the point where they can read for themselves, where they can write and things of that nature. And so a lot of it is, again, that education where the system has left some people behind because they no longer are interested in taking the time to try to teach these individuals. I remember when the Dayton public school system motto was "No child left behind," and now it's "Moving on." And so they're moving on from having to worry about, you know, actually taking care and making sure each child is getting the information and the education that they need. Of course, resources. There aren't, unfortunately, if you don't live within the downtown and maybe up certain corridors around the downtown area, you're going to have a lot of gripes because they're not focusing, they're not providing resources, they're not funneling the dollars into those areas. And people can see it. You can see it just driving down the street. You can feel it driving down the street. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen that Ace Ventura movie where he's just like bouncing along. That's what it feels like, because there's so many potholes. Instead of fixing Gettysburg first, they just put bumps on it. So they didn't fix it before they put the bumps. And now you just have a long street of uneven bumps of cars. Like, this affects people down to the core, because now their cars are having to go on it, tires need to be replaced. I've had a story just recently where someone, there's a pothole, a huge one, right up Salem, and they just put a cone there right now. So just know to avoid it, but to avoid it, you might have to swerve into the next lane of traffic. And so it just, it again creates a situation where we're just struggling to survive, and we can't even think about thriving, because the simple necessities, the simple things that should be taken care of government aren't taken care of by your government aren't. And so now you have to do above and beyond just to meet the bare minimum.
And, you know, speaking of that, in the food, your words, the food Sierra, if elected, when elected, let's change the narrative. When elected, how would you go about trying to attract, a major food, a major food grocer into our into back into our city? Because, like, as you know, they're about to close the Kroger over there, and try to push everybody over there to Riverside. Being in construction, I just saw that they out there on Miller Lane, they're about to build an Audis there. Um,
Mm,
so they're looking at, I mean, they're bringing grocers back into our region, but once the Krogers leave, you can't, over there on Kiwi or wherever that is.
right.
Once that leaves,
Wayne,
Wayne, once that leaves, you won't be able to name any major grocery chain in the city of Dayton. That's either West Side, East Side, North, or anything. So,
no.
when elected, how would you go about trying to attract some of these one of these chain grocers back into our city?
So that's where I might be progressive in my thinking, because I don't believe we need to attract people who are no longer interested in helping or providing for us. I'm not going to beg you to help me. That's not going to happen. I'm actually more interested in educating the people. Like I said, this is a conversation between me and the people. The government just happens to be a go-between. But what I want to do is be able to create community gardens like we have in multiple locations already, expand those, truly get the neighborhood and those community involved and keeping a hand at their community garden, so that they can, one, grow their own produce, grow their own food. But also Gem City Market is an example right up there on Salem, of another community owned grocery store. And so if we can put together our dollars, if we can put together our efforts, if we can put together, just kind of a mimicry of that plan into the different areas, then we can bring back grocery stores into those areas without having to rely on the quote unquote almighty like conglomerates that are out there.
Okay. And that's good, because like, that's one thing that I believe we need to do more of is empowerment of the people, showing them how they can be the solution to their problems. Um another
Absolutely.
another thing that I've heard in my talks with other people. We have a lot of grassroots organizations that are out here doing it, but as far as some, they could be an asset to the city government, but it seems like they have issues and problems of getting the funding, because it seems like the funding goes to the same people over and over. When elected, how would you go about trying to help getting the funding to the people who are already got boots on the ground, and are out there doing the work that could take some of the stress off of the city government?
I think what's important is that we do a proper assessment of those individuals, that we actually connect with them, because a lot of times that too is that they're out there, but by the time their information gets up to the city commissioners, it's been gone through the voting boards, and it's been gone through the paperwork, and it's been gone through And so maybe that person doesn't qualify for all of those different things, but that doesn't mean that the idea or that their mission isn't what the city should align with. And maybe they do need that additional money and support so that they can grow and develop the plans, because the plans are sound. The plans are looking to invest directly back into the city of Dayton. I know I've heard of in working on trying to get ARPA funds for other people. I've heard of plenty of plans and even some organizations that have already been established proving that they can make these things a reality. But unfortunately, because of the way that the city has set up their notice of funding opportunities and the way that you have to go through in order to even write the grant, it has cut a lot of people from being able to have that conversation, to be able to actually put their ideas in front of the people who would be able to fund them. And so modifying the way that we do and restructuring the way that we do grant recipients and the way that we do the whole process, I think is a necessity, as well as when they offer assistance, make sure that it's actually effective assistance. Now, before they've hired consulting companies to run their grants, but a lot of times those companies gave mixed information. They held for ARPA, which was the American Rescue Plan Act. I can speak on that personally. They only had about a month that they gave you once their website actually went up for you to put in your application. And the application was well over 20 pages long. So if you are a business, especially a grassroots organization that have been doing it, but can't do it at the scale that other people can do it, and to go after the funds that you would need to do it, and then be told because you can't write it properly in the time frame that we're giving you, it means you're disqualified or you're not qualified. And actually you are qualified, you just can't conform to these very rigid and very, I think, systematically oppressive standards that they're trying to put to make sure that you don't get the money. Let's just say they're doing it so that you don't get the money. And that's the conversation I want to change, because who is making that decision to not give those individuals the money? Who is constantly putting that money into certain developers, certain programs that haven't shown effectively that they're making a difference, especially since they keep getting money and nothing has substantially changed from their programs.
Right. Yeah, those are some good things that we need to have conversations with the community. And listen, we agreed that we were going to do these weekly conversations, and I'm looking forward to it. I thank you again. To next week as we come back, what will be the preview? Should we give them a little preview of what we might be talking about next week? Because I know there's so many things that we could talk about.
Sure.
What would you like to preview for them then, so that we can have them come back and maybe even do a Q&A session with them coming up in the future?
Yeah, I would love to, because I think the next important thing is a neighborhood liaison, neighborhood communication, because truly I can't speak for everyone. I am one person living in Dayton. I am being affected just like everyone else. But I think the important part, because they took away this program a few years ago, the important part is to get back out into the communities and figure out what those specific neighborhoods feel that they need. Every neighborhood is going to be different. Every organization is going to feel like, okay, well, we need more of this, we need more of that. But if you're blanketing things, then you're not providing the adequate resources to those different communities. And so we need to branch back out, have that communication, and be accessible as public figures, because that's what we were voted into office to be.
Yeah, that's what people forget, that we're people, we vote in elected servants. They're also
Exactly.
the public servants. They're not
Yes.
everybody. So listen, as we wrap up, I want to encourage everybody who watches this to put it in the chat. Any questions that you would like Joe to address next week when we come back. And are there any places that you will be in the next week that people might be able to come so they can talk to you one-on-one, so that they can learn a little bit more about your platform?
Absolutely. So I'm always, you can pretty much always catch me at Third Perk. It is my campaign headquarters. I will be at the Gym City Market on Thursday, and then there I will be at another networking event on at 5515 North Main Street this upcoming Friday, starting at 6.
Okay. So thank you again, Joe.
And
oh, go ahead.
yes. I was just going to say, as the weather warms, the Salem Street Garden, the Westwood Elementary School Garden, those are two that I volunteer at. So you can also come volunteer with us and be a part of the conversation of what we're planning in those different locations.
I think I might even show up for a couple of those so I can get my fingers in the soil, so I can help myself.
Absolutely. It's therapeutic. It's
Right, and
therapeutic.
get grounded again. And the more you
Yeah.
clean the soil, the more we get grounded with Mother Earth. Well, again, Joe, I would like to thank you for this moment in time and this conversation. As always, this is always a good informational conversation that we have. I look forward to our conversations on the week so we can get the community the information that they need to know that there are people out here who really, truly still believe in their cause and want to hear their voice and not just hear it and just keep going about their way, but hear it and also try to show them how to empower themselves to be the change to the solutions of the problems that they face, as well as still be their advocate down at City Hall for the change that they need to see being done. And as always, please put in the chat, anybody that you might think that, needs to be highlighted on our channel. Also, any questions that you might have for Joe next week. We're looking forward to how these conversations are going. And in your future coming up soon, we will be having a live session so we can do live, Q&A online. That way people can participate and everything like that. With that being said, is there anything you would like to say to everybody before we sign off?
Remember that your vote is your voice in this system, and you need to take advantage of it. I understand it might not be the system that you maybe want to be in. Hey, I'm with you, but this is what it is at this point. And what we have to control is our vote. They cannot deny it. You can use it to make a change. You can use it to shift the narrative back into our favor. So show up to vote on May the 2nd. You can start voting early, I believe, beginning April the 4th.
Okay. Thanks again, Joe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. With that being said, we're signing off from the Black Community Blackboard channel. And with all things, peace and have a good day. Be one, people. Be one. All right.